Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1642B, and today's date is August 19th, 2018, and the title of the episode is, There Are Major Signs That the Deep State is Planning Something Big. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview with Jeff Nielsen. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It will bring you right to the interview, or you can come over to the x22report.com or newsentinel.com sites. Scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You'll see the interview there. You can play it right on the site, or go to Steemit, that's steemit.com/@x22report, and you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we can see the deep state, they are floundering right now. I mean, just think about this for a second of what has been happening here. Now, everyone wanted all the information to come out at once, but I think the strategy of the Patriots, Trump, behind the scenes, and Q has been telling us this, is that they're slowly letting the information out, and I think it's being done for many different purposes, not just to get the American people used to this information, but also to make the deep state sweat and to make them squirm before the hammer is dropped. And it seems that while this is going on, the deep state, of course, they're not just going to sit back and say, hey, we give, thank you very much. They're going to come up with other plans, and it looks like they are preparing something quite large. And Q seems, with his latest posts, seems like Q is warning us of something happening, because Q is talking about projection, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit. But let's start off with what is happening here with the Steele dossier and the FBI and the judge that ruled that the agency must respond to the Freedom of Information Act request for documents concerning the Bureau's effort to verify the controversial Steele dossier. And this is a major blow to the FBI right now, because the judge wants this information. So, U.S. District Court Judge Amit Mehta, who in January sided with the FBI's decision to ignore the Freedom of Information Act request, said that Trump's release of two House Intelligence Committee documents, the Nunes and Schiff, changed everything. The FBI will likely to be forced to acknowledge the documents thanks to Thursday's ruling. The agency will still be able to try and convince the judge that there are other grounds to withhold the records, but it seems like this might fail. It remains no longer logical nor plausible for the FBI to maintain that it cannot confirm nor deny the existence of the documents. And this is coming from the judge. So it looks like the FBI right now, they are backed into a corner. So we know that there's a trial going on with Manafort, and the jurors now are deciding the verdict. Right now, as far as this recording, there's no verdict that has been reached whatsoever. But what's very interesting is that the media institutions, they were pushing to say that they were a media coalition on the court documents, and they were demanding the names of addresses of the Manafort jurors. And the judge denied their motion. This is Judge T.S. Ellis. He said, no, this is not going to happen, and kept all their names private and secret. And the judge is saying that he is being threatened right now. And right now he's being protected full-time by the U.S. Marshals, and he doesn't know where these threats are coming from, but as we can see, he is being threatened, and the media is trying to push to get the names of these individuals. Now, everything is being blocked, and nothing's being released to the media, and I think this is being done on purpose. And the media is having a very difficult time with this, and we'll have to see what the verdict is. But once again, this whole entire trial has nothing to do with Russian collusion. The trial is not even based on Russian collusion. So let's see where this all goes. Now, Trump is out there, and he attacked the failing New York Times for a report that he said implied the White House counsel Don McGahern must be a John Dean type rat. And Trump is out there saying that the failing at New York Times wrote a fake piece today implying that because White House counsel Don McCahan was giving hours of testimony to the special counsel, he must be a John Dean type rat. But I allowed him and all others to testify. I didn't have to, Trump said. I have nothing to hide. And I have demanded transparency so that this rigged and disgusting witch hunt can come to a close. So many lives have been ruined over nothing. McCarthyism at its worst, yet Mueller and his gang of Dems refuse to look at the real crimes on the other side. Media is even worse. And we can see right now, they are trying to scramble and figure out a way to keep their stories propped up. And they're having a very difficult time because they can see what is happening right now. Many other individuals, their security clearance, well, they're being investigated. Most likely they'll be removed eventually. We see Brennan was out there screaming and yelling, saying that Trump is treasonous, and then he tried to backtrack on that and say what he really meant. And it looks like Judicial Watch right now is suing for Brennan's communications with Senator Harry Reid. So will Brennan's text messages and emails be next? Most likely. Now, let's think about what's happening here. If they start to remove all these individuals' security clearances, and, many of these individuals don't have this clearance, the corporate media is going to be left out in the cold. I mean, think about what's happening here. Where do they get their information? Where do they get their stories? How do they know what's going on? Through leaked information, through these individuals using their security clearance. Once all of this is cut off, what does the mainstream media have? They have nothing. They won't be able to report on anything. They don't investigate anything. They don't research anything. They were just taking the information that was given to them and then reporting on it. Once this is gone, they have nowhere to go. They have nothing to report on. They don't have the information anymore. This is what they're so worried about. I mean, one of the reasons why they're so worried. And as they investigate these other individuals, we're going to see one at a time their security clearance removed. And it's going to get harder and harder for these people to understand, to figure out what the patriots are up to. And they won't be able to feed the mainstream media information anymore. They're backed into a corner, and it's getting worse and worse. We see that conspiracy theorists, well, they've been proven right once again. TSA body scanners are going to be rolled out at subway stations. Now, remember where they started out in the airports, and we reported on this many, many years ago, where we said eventually it's going to be in the subway stations, bus stations, in sporting events and things like that. Well, we're already starting to see this. According to a press release from the TSA, they have partnered with Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority to deploy a new advanced portable passenger screening technology that will help detect weapons and explosives and everything else like this. And this is going to be used on their metro system. Now, we see what's happening here. The deep state, through many, many years, have scared the American people to think that terrorists are coming to get them. That you need to give up your rights, we need to scan you, we need to pat you down, we need to make sure that you're safe. But what they're really doing is they're controlling the everyday person and making everyone afraid of a small sound or something that is happening and think that everything is a gunshot and jump at every single noise. It's time to turn this around, to say, we're not afraid of this. We don't need any of this. We know that this was all made up. We know this was your plan from the beginning. Now, Trump is out there and he uses his tweets to bypass the corporate media. Because as we know, the corporate media is out there saying that, meeting with foreign leaders, that is treason, it's collusion, it's everything else. And Trump came out and gave a video message on Twitter explaining why it is a good thing for a president to meet with other leaders. And it's the responsibility of the president to do this. Listen to what Trump has to say.
Many people have asked me, why do I meet with foreign leaders Why do I even waste my time? The fact is, it's very important. I've said for a long time, if you're president, you should meet with foreign leaders. You have nothing to lose, and you have a lot to gain. You look at what happened in Singapore. You look at what happened with Chairman Kim and all that's taken place. We have the remains back of our great heroes that were lost so many years ago. We have nobody shooting out missiles and nuclear testing and other things that were going on that were terrible. We had a tremendous meeting with President Putin. A lot of things were accomplished. Meeting with foreign leaders is a good thing, not a bad thing. Nothing bad can happen. It's only going to be positive, especially if your president knows what he's doing.
Now, as you can see, he had to lay this out and explain the good things that can come from this. And that's why he gave examples. And I believe there's going to be more meetings with Putin and many other leaders. And he's trying to put it out there that this is a good thing, not a bad thing. Because when you meet with leaders and you talk to them and you talk about peace and you talk about how can we work things out, this is a good thing, not a bad thing. We see out in Afghanistan, the president of Afghanistan, Ghani, said they are putting forth a conditional ceasefire with the Taliban, which will run for a 3-month period. They're hoping that the Taliban will accept this. And if you notice, they're continually trying this. We also know that the U.S. is in secretive talks behind the scenes with the Taliban, trying to push peace in the region. And I think eventually what's going to happen is that we will see peace in the region. North Korea right now, they have agreed to allow experts from the International Civil Aviation Organization to carry out checks to ensure that commercial aircraft are flying safely. And it looks like North Korea is now taking additional steps to allow organizations in to make it where people can travel to North Korea, where flights can fly over North Korea, where everything can be on the up and up and safe and join the rest of the world. We know out in Lebanon and many of the other countries in the Middle East where the deep state came in and had regime change, they want certain things the way they want them in a certain way because they want to remain in power in these areas. And if they don't go the way the deep state wants, what do? They try to mess up the governments. They try to do certain things behind the scenes so they can't form governments. And the Lebanese president out there, he is saying that, yes, he believes foreign meddling is behind the failure to form a government in Lebanon. And once again, the deep state, they have been meddling in governments for many, many years. Forget about Russia meddling in the U.S. election or in the U.S. government, which is completely fake, phony, and false. The CIA, the deep state, and those neocons, they have been meddling in many different countries' governments for a very long time. Out in Syria right now, we see that things are starting to die down. The Syrian armed forces and the Russian forces, they are mounting this major offensive, and it looks like the Islamic State, their days are numbered right now. We see that Trump, he has canceled the $230 million in funding for stabilization in Syria. He's saying let other rich countries pay for it, like Saudi Arabia and all the others that were pushing this. And once again, we can see what is happening here. Do you really think the $230 million worth of funding was really to help Syria, or was it given to the White Helmets and other groups in that area? That's really what it was used for. This money was funneled to many other places. It wasn't to rebuild Syria. It wasn't to help to stabilize Syria. And now the U.S. is saying, you know something? We can't do this anymore. This was the deep state before, where they were using all this funding, and now we can see that it's being pulled back. And you know what? Other countries that were involved in this, if they want to pursue this, let them go ahead and do this. But guess what? They're not going to do it without the U.S., without the deep state support. They're not going to do this. And when you start removing all the funding from all their operations, they have nothing left. And we can see right now we are coming down to the end here. Now, in the beginning, I said that the deep state, they might be planning something big. And Q posted a drop here, post 1925, August 19th. Q starts out, define fascism. Forcible suppression of opposition. Define censorship. The institution, system, or practice of censoring. Define narrative, a way of presenting or understanding a situation or series of events that reflects and promotes a particular point of view or set of values. Define projection, the attribution of one's own ideas, feelings, or attributes to others or to objects, especially the externalization of blame, guilt, or responsibility as a defense against anxiety. The forming of a plan, scheming, defines psychological projection, a theory in psychological in which the human ego defends itself against unconscious impulses or qualities, both positive and negative, by denying their existence in themselves while attributing them to others. Define narcissist, a person who has an extensive interest in or admiration of themselves. Narcissists who think the world revolves around them. A narcissist preening themselves in front of the mirror. Define dogma, a point of view or tenet put forth as authoritative without adequate grounds. Define aggression, forceful and sometimes overly assertive pursuit of one's aims and interests. Define suppression, the action of suppressing something such as an activity or publication. Bonus round. This is in brackets, bold. Narcissists are renowned for using psychological projection to blame others, even when it is entirely apparent that they are the ones in the wrong. Define realism, the quality or fact of representing a person, thing, or a situation accurately or in a way that is true to life. And this is in brackets, bold, realism. Actions of Antifa. Antifa is in brackets, bold, and in all caps. Aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative, dogma. Actions of fake news, again, brackets, all bold, capital letters. Aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative, dogma. Actions of Twitter, Facebook, Google, YouTube, Reddit, etc., brackets, all bold, capital letters. Aggression, projection, suppression, fascism, censorship, narrative, dogma. Sheep no more, all caps. The more you know, Q. So Q is pretty much laying it out and telling you what they do here. They're aggressive. They suppress the true nature of themselves, fascism. Censorship is to push their narrative forward while censoring others. And Q basically laid it out for Antifa, fake news, and the social media sites. Post 1926, August 19th. Brackets, in bold, cause. Define subversion. The definition is the act of subverting, the state of being subverted, especially a systematic attempt to overthrow or undermine a government or political system by persons working secretly from within. Effect, brackets, bold. Gave a link to whitehouse.gov. This is the Presidential Actions Executive Order blocking property persons involved in serious human rights abuse, corruption. And we showed this before, where this was an executive order by the President Trump. And it went on to say, the United States seeks to impose tangible and significant consequences on those who commit serious human rights abuse or engage in corruption, as well as to protect the financial system of the United States from abuse by these same persons. I therefore determine that serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and the economy of the United States, and I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. And then it says national emergency in all caps. Gave another link, whitehouse.gov. 2018 Amendments, Manual, Courts, Martial, United States. January 1st, 2019, Section 12. In accordance with Article 33 of the UCMJ, as amended by Section 5204 of the MJA, the Secretary of Defense, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security, will issue non-binding guidance regarding factors that commanders, convening authorities, staff judge advocates should take into account when exercising their duties with respect to the disposition of charges and specifications in the interest of justice and discipline under Articles 30 and 34 of the UCMJ. That guidance will take into account, with appropriate consideration of military requirements, the principles contained in official guidance of the Attorney General to attorneys for the federal government with respect to the disposition of federal criminal cases in accordance with the principle of fair and even-handed administration of federal criminal law. And remember, this is about the court-martials that Q has been talking about. Then Q went on to say, plus FBI personnel removal, plus Department of Justice personnel removal, plus CIA personnel removal, plus state personnel removal, plus White House personnel removal, plus House personnel removal, plus Senate personnel removal, plus Chair, CEO, VP removal. Remember all those names that Q gave us of how many people have been fired or let go or resigned, plus military budget, largest in our history, plus military presence around POTUS, plus 45,000 sealed indictments. And then Q gave links to military.com, and the article is, when it comes to Guantanamo, Trump is truly the builder-in-chief. The Trump administration has more than $200 million in new construction teed up for Guantanamo this year and next, combining new funding in the $1.3 trillion spending bill and existing projects. Now let's think about this for a second. This article is telling us that he's improving the Guantanamo Bay prison. And basically, when the court-martials come down, these individuals are going to be sent to these prisons. So Q links to another article, and this is from The Guardian. It says, U.S. private prison program rebooted by Trump administration. Jeff Sessions gave the order to revive the Justice Department use of 4 private prisons, a sharply criticized industry that Obama had committed to phasing out. I wonder what they're going to use the prisons for. Breitbart. Here's another article that Q links to, and this one says the following. Turley, Sessions appointing Utah federal prosecutor much better for Trump than second special counsel. That is Huber. Huber is creating and going after all these individuals and putting together the indictments. And at the end, Q says, nothing to see here, which means that there's nothing to see, but there's everything to see, that everything is being prepared for all these individuals. And this is why everything was put into place. But we know that the deep state, they're not just going to sit back, and Trump administration and the Patriots, they know this. They know that they're fighting the deep state every step of the way, and they're stopping them, from missile launches and things like that. I mean, we're seeing many different signs that the deep state, it looks like they're planning something very, very big. And remember, every time they plan something or there's a false flag or an event, what do? They take down channels ahead of time. They give strikes ahead of time because they try to look ahead because they already know what the event's going to be and they already know what has to be done. And this is why they give the strikes. This is why they bring channels down. And if we notice, they shut down the big names on social media, especially the ones that call out false flags, who point things out, say this doesn't make sense, and they brought those channels down. Most likely they'll probably bring down even more. We also know that there was a training camp in New Mexico, and individuals were arrested but then let go, and then the camp was destroyed. And once again, there's a reason for this, because something was being planned and they didn't want people to know, and it was found out. So it looks like we're heading towards the midterms. Looks like a lot of information is going to be dropped, like the IG report, the FISA, and everything else. A lot of information is going to come out. The security clearances for many people, they are being shut down. These individuals are being stripped of it, and the deep state can't have this. So it looks like we're seeing signs that they're planning on retaliating against all this, and they already know what they're planning, and it most likely has to do with an event or something like that, and this is why they're bringing down these large channels and shutting up a lot of individuals. And I think there's going to be a lot more individuals shut down, or they might even receive strikes because they know they can use this later on because they already know what the event is. And they already know what they need to block, what they need to give strikes for, what to shut down. So we're definitely seeing major signs because they know what is coming. They also know what they're going to do here. So we can see that this is really building, and we're getting closer and closer to this event that's going to occur one way or another unless it's stopped like in the past. But we can see that we're building up to something very, very big here. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.